Hi.
Hey.
So my problem this week isn't so much of a problem. Well, it is, but it's also I'm accepting an irrationalism that I've got. Um, but there's probably something to be discussed there. So where you are a group of people or a company or whatever you are that agrees that you are going to follow diplomatic ways of working together, like any teamwork should be diplomatic. Sometimes or is it always the right way to do stuff, or can you find yourselves suddenly managing by committee? So where you've got a task, so I'm in charge of something because it's my area, great, that's simple, straightforward. Something's gone wrong now, and things like that happen all the time, but is it always correct to be diplomatic, or does someone just need to sometimes say, no, I'm taking this and it's going to be my thing? I don't know, it's hard to put those things two together, because intellectually you're supposed to be diplomatic, but that whole managing by committee thing just sometimes stalls things forever, and there's not anyone in charge, you don't know what's happening, and even though you're trying to put people in the right positions, sometimes it's just, I know the answer to this, I'm going to go fix it and I'm going to go deal with it. Is that too far? Are you supposed to say that? I don't know. So
Well,
let's escalate that, take that to the bottom.
Take it to the bottom. Okay, it can get worse. I mean,
yeah,
you get the idea that it slows things down because now you've got people who aren't experts, and you have basically the referendum. You have a bunch of people making decisions on things they don't understand, when there should be someone who is qualified to make that decision, and that could lead into a catastrophe. So I'll escape talking about Brexit any further and stuff like that, but it just gives you, right or wrong, how do you know that the right person is making the right decisions if you're being a diplomat? So it can get bad quick. And then who do you listen to? Do you listen to the majority, or do you listen to the informed minority? If you're looking at things such as it doesn't always fit with work, but if you look at areas of justice, if there is a oppressed people and they happen to be a minority, and you ask the people, shall we stop oppressing the minority? Every one of the minority can put a hand up and say, stop oppressing me. But it's like, hey, no, we asked everyone, and the majority were like, no, we can keep oppressing you. And so at some point, a good leader might have to take that decision out of that oppressive majority's hands.
Yeah.
So it can get worse. I don't know if you can think of any extra things, Charlie.
This got very political very quickly. So to be perfectly honest with you, in terms of it getting worse, to take it on the flip side, you've also can have one person who tries to take that autonomy, and they can just be wrong. Sometimes, they can just be bold-headed about their decision and just be outright wrong. It is a very tricky one, and it's almost a case of just how do you get that one?
Yeah, you're right, because you can be right up to a point as well, and then you have things such as, look, I'm popping up twice. It's strange, but how is this happening? That's hilarious. But okay, so I think, I was saying you can be right up to a point, and I think when you get past that point, when you're wrong, and that's how dictatorship start. Like you can be people and good in your team, but the first time you're wrong, no one's able to tell you because you make all the decisions, and then consensus is lost. And when you think about it, unless you have an assigned moral authority in life, not to be too political again, then who is right? What is wrong? So how do you know you're right? I guess with business, you have certain outcomes that you're trying to hit. So maybe you are right.
I think that's it. I think that's it, though, isn't it? Is that sometimes there isn't an answer to something, and so something needs to be tried. It's just that I think that this version is going to yield the better result.
Yes.
It might not be big enough that it's going to destroy anything. It might just be a route that you're trying to take. So sometimes it's not that big a deal. It's just I want it my way. Sometimes.
Well, actually, I'd say the biggest, to bring this back to business, I think the biggest detrimental factor you can have is that it just delays the decision. Sometimes a decision made allows you to find out what the best course of action is, and everything apart from that is hypothetical. And sometimes you just need to see it. But, sometimes with the shall we say, the diplomatic approach, things get dragged out over time, days, weeks, months, arguments. near throttlings, all of that kind of stuff. So I'd say that is actually the worst part of it, just the delay that stops any decision being made.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so help me now. What do we do? What do I do to fix it? What do I do? Do I
Well, I think
accept that actually this isn't how life works?
some of your answers in the question where you said, is it always right? And in any question that says always is very rarely going to be affirmed. And so clearly it's not always the right decision. Good judgment decides when to make that choice. I always refer back to parenting with businesses because I feel like there's such a strong correlation between parenting and running a business, is that sometimes you're going to let that child or the children make their own decision and learn. And sometimes they'll be more informed in their decision and they'll do it better than you. And sometimes you have to say, no, this is the point where I can't make that choice. And if we flip back to, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, the one that Charlie led, I can't remember specifically what the topic was called, but it was that thing of you're going to have to make that judgment of when, I think it was how much time, when to delegate, is when is something so essential that I can't afford to give to someone else and there be a mistake made? And when is it better to allow allowable mistakes? What are the allowable weaknesses? Like, you know, talk about Belbin's emails. What are the allowable things where I say, it's a greater good that you learn how to do this than I have to continually do this. I'd rather that you make a mistake for the next 2 weeks and then figure it out and then learn it than I have to do it for the next year, because I'm never prepared to give you the opportunity to make a mistake and slowly learn and norm your behavior in the way that I need the results. And then also the last thing that I would add to this particular point is, if you only do it your way, you limit the opportunity for someone else to come and do it better, more efficiently. And that's a process.
Yeah. So there's a few things I'd pick from that. I think that it, to a certain extent, I agree and have issues. I feel like in this context, what that sounds like is you have a decision or a course of action that you don't agree with. It's supposed to be diplomatic, and then you essentially concede or compromise on that point, and you say, you know what, let's go with the other route. And that I agree with, in as much as it forces or starts action. And you may well be wrong as well. I mean, no one is right all the time. So I definitely agree with it in that sense. Obviously, the flip side to that is that, you know, you could sometimes those decisions are expensive decisions, costly decisions. So
I'd also add, there's something about skills, transparency, and impact. By that I mean that if you are, do the people involved in decision making have the skills to make decisions? Or are they qualified? Have you been transparent enough to give them enough information as to why what you think should happen might be different to theirs? And then, is the impact going to have is the idea going to have an impact on you and them, or just the business? Because if it's going to have an impact on them and their ability to do their jobs or their lives or their impact on their roles, then it is fairer sometimes to give them that choice. And so that's an assessment a leader has to make. At the same time, a way a politician would have to make is, who is this going to impact? Or if it's going to impact people's lives, then they deserve a say. If they deserve a say, am I going to be transparent? And while I'm being transparent, do they have the skills and knowledge to do what is needed to do?
If I can chip in with I don't know. I just think that sometimes, for me, the key thing is that a decision is made. When you come to those situations where you're at an impasse, and you know, however you, whatever processes you put in place to make sure that that is the case, you can take the approach that Deola just mentioned, or sometimes just, you know, spin the barrel. But I think the key thing at times is making that decision, because delay can be the real killer. Not indecision is a decision, but it's always the worst decision.
Yes.
Okay. Any radical solutions and then a sensible solution?
Well, a radical solution, I suggest, I mean, the easy answer is to say, just do what you want when you want. But I think even more than that is you say, it's results or else. And in that case, you give people a chance. You almost give them the rope to hang themselves. And you say, this is how I want it done. If you're going to do it a different way, you better get these results. And if you don't, you're going to have to tell me why. And that's fairly harsh, but at the same time, you're saying, this is the end result I want. This is how I would do it. You need to bring back something at least that good as that. And if they don't get that, then heads have to roll, or you just take away their voting privileges, so to speak.
I like it. Charlie? Charlie? Help us out. Be sensible.
So maybe on the fairer side, like you said at the start, diplomacy in theory is always the way. We're talking about situations where you are at an impasse in terms of a decision, and then I think in that case, you have to have a leader if it's a specific area. I don't know, finance, HR, whatever. You have specific leaders for those areas. Then that leader, the person who is most informed in that area, given the information they've got, I think they make the judgment call. But that's what happens when there is the impasse. Otherwise, diplomacy should work well.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for your help.
Yeah.
Bye.